MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome to this Sunday night. Live on the YouTube channel. And if you're here on YouTube, appreciate that. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. I saw the Gen, whatever, the young kids, John, they don't. Thumbs up is passive-aggressive, apparently.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anything with
thumbs up,
passive-aggressive, all their crap.
But on YouTube, it's good. So hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to this podcast, that's awesome. Thank you. OGs or new Gs. Appreciate you doing the audio thing on the pod. Appreciate it very much.
Niners win because I feel inside right now. It's not like a jubilation, like a win.
Somebody just tweeted at me, Kyle Shanahan is like the Bible Belt. Very conservative.
Wasn't Coward's thing always that the most porn is watching the Bible Belt, though? Sneaky, like you maybe not as conservative as you think that they want to show.
In Shanahan's mind, he dreams about throwing deep bombs, but then when it comes time to call plays, he just
Kyle deep down, he would run it 75,000 times a game. Like Kyle actually is like. So if he was in the Bible Belt, he would never touch porn. Like Kyle just wants to be super.
He would practice what he preaches.
Yes, he just wants to run it. Can he trade for another running back? Because he would.
He would be, getting Trey Lance is like his version of telling people he watches porn, but actually just to fit in, but he actually doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. When Kyle watched Jeff Wilson go for 100 today, he was smiling from ear to ear. He doesn't get those catches that Justin Jefferson's making. If Kyle does zero emotional impact inside his body.
So mad.
He just wants to watch running backs
you would think
run.
When he watches Josh Allen, he'd be pissed. But it's actually when he watches Jeff Wilson, he's pissed.
Well, when he watches Josh Allen run, because he goes, he would have been a good running back.
Yeah.
So the same thing about Justin Fields. Like, could he play running back for me?
Well, I mean, he is currently. I don't know if you saw that today, John, but he ran for more than he ran for a lot of yards today.
I think like almost 150. I mean, I think he's accounted. I added it up. 13 touchdowns the last 4 weeks. He's playing decent.
Okay, he actually threw for more than he ran for, but not by much.
But he's scoring touchdowns, guy. Four touchdowns he accounted for.
Four touchdowns accounted for. Absolutely. All right, we got a lot to talk about. Before we dive into it, let's tell the people, John. First, we are sponsored by our friends, the wonderful Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka. The holiday season is here. So many great recipes. You're hanging out. You're going out. You're spending time. Do it with Tito's. Do it with Tito's, John.
Guy, because I'm booted off the Twitter, I went to Twitter, I typed in your name, and I just scrolled, and I saw that you retweeted some posts of people just drinking. It looked like someone was drinking at some football games, at a bar, at a casino. I couldn't even tell. People were having fun, and I couldn't even take joy in it, even though I was drinking Tito's on my own, but I can't interact with these people. It's not the interaction on Instagram isn't quite the same. It's not as like direct to consumer. It takes a little time, but I'm glad to see everyone boozing. Tito's and water with a lemon, correct?
Yeah, that's Tito's official drink. That's his drink.
That's Tito's official drink. I'm more of a lime guy, not even because I necessarily know the difference in the taste. Like if you just switched it up on me, I don't think I would notice. I just go, yeah, lime. It just comes out of my mouth, not lemon. So my drink of choice is Tito's soda, lemon, or I've told people, I got the tall cans of Arnold Palmer's Diet, and they last you a while.
Tito's Spice Cider Mule. I'm looking at the website right now, John. This actually sounds like a pretty good winner. I was just thinking about chili today. Not that would be a good accompaniment for a cider mule, but things cooling down a little bit. 3 ounces of spiced apple cider, warm. 1 ounce of ginger beer and some Tito's handmade vodka. Sounds fantastic. I think one of the pictures you saw was at the San Diego State football game where
that's what I'm saying. Did you go have a cocktail with him?
No, but I got a picture from a guy who was at the game, and I was walking the sidelines. And I heard promo code HAM, and I turned around and it was Grant, a listener of ours, who also had it must be a very important person. He had field access pregame, and I think he was the one that sent a picture from the game earlier. So
he didn't invite you to come after the game to have some Tito's?
No, I kind of said to him like, "Hey, we're on the suite level, so whatever you guys are doing." And
you guys go to Dave and Buster's after the game?
Dave and Buster's.
I've went there. It's kind of over by the stadium.
No,
Qualcomm used to be.
It's this new stadium's right by Qualcomm, but I didn't see Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, it's I think it's a little out of the. It's kind of weird the way the setup is there. I can see where Dean, had some. I understand some of his pushback over there.
For those who not following the current news story, we're approaching day 7 of of your Twitter being
Kidnapped.
right?
Just get guy slinging NFTs. You know, SBF, is that the FTX guy?
Yes.
He could be behind it. Who knows? Trying to keep people off the scent. I don't know.
All right, so that's the latest there. You went to Twitter and searched my name?
I just go to Twitter. I don't have an account, so you have to type in people's names to find tweets. So I type in. I have like 7 people. I type in Schefter, type in Haberman. Like, what do you? How do you use the app without having an account? You don't really. It sucks. So I did that a couple times, but you can only scroll so far, and then it kicks you off. It wants you to create an account. So I was like, fuck this.
I appreciate all the people who tag. People send me tweets and say, send this to John. There are a lot of Raider tweets today that people said send them to John.
Yeah, I saw someone tag you in one of the Tito's picks and say I tagged John, but he's dead. But it's just a DED, and I laughed.
We are also sponsored by Manscaped. Before we get to the football talk, let's tell you about Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Manscaped.com. Use the code HAM and the number 1. HAM and the number 1. It is fresh ball fall, y'all.
Well, think about it, guy. What's right around the corner? Little thing
Fresh
called
ball.
Hanukkah. Oh. Then another little thing called Christmas Eve and Christmas. What do you do during that time? You get your loved ones, you get your family members, you may get some, people that you do business with that work for you, presents. What do? Go to manscaped.com, use the promo code HAM and the number 1. Get them some trimmers. We've gotten so many boxes of Manscapes over the years, and I've given them out. I've never once had anyone complain that I handed it to. Not only do they not complain, they're excited once they get the box. Lawnmower 4.0, LED light, USB charger, waterproof, no snags, no nicks, never cut myself one time.
No sticks, no stems.
No. Sticky, icky, icky.
20% off. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. 20% off manscaped.com plus free shipping when you use the code HAM and the number 1. You can also get the Platinum Package, 10 parts, everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to Platinum. Manscaped will even throw in 2 free gifts in the Platinum Package 4.0, the boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag. Go to manscaped.com, 20% off free shipping with the code HAM1. 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code HAM1. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine. There you go.
You notice on Robbie Gould's missed extra point, it's the classic like D-cell in a bunker. You try to hit it really easy, and then all of a sudden you just catch sand and the ball does not go where. Did you see how easy he tried to hit it with his little foot? It's like, Robbie, you got to kind of follow through. And the next one, when he kicked basically the game clinching field goal, it didn't actually even matter. Much more of a follow through. Like, Robbie, I'm not a special teams guy, but I'm going to go on a quick rant. Follow through your kicks. And Wisnowski, as you text me during the game, whatever you got going on with this cocked thing, you're off to the side, kicking it to the left.
The banana
stop.
boat.
Just kick it fucking down the middle, for the love of God. Whatever you got doing, I understand Kyle is calling offensive plays and dreaming of power sweeps. Doesn't give a shit about punting or kicking. That was completely embarrassing, whatever Wisnowski was attempting to do tonight.
Yeah, I mean, special teams, too much time. I would enroll special teams in like some language classes. Just give those guys something else to occupy their time so they can't spend all their time coming up with tricky new ways to kick the football. I think we've invented all the ways that already exist to kick the football.
How's the head coach not paying attention and going, hey, Mitch?
Hate special teams, Johnny. Hate special teams.
He despises it. He doesn't even watch.
He didn't want to watch tape when it came to the draft. He doesn't want to. He's got the worst special teams, one of the worst special teams groups in the league again. Does not care.
What about when Tirico's like, notice he's way off to the side here? It's like, well, Mike, every other punter I've ever seen in my entire life just stands behind the snapper. We're not reinventing the wheel here, Mitch.
He's had some good ones in the past, but twice, John. I, as a bad golfer, there was a round once where I was hitting the draw well. But with some weird, my swing was in to out. My wrists were flipping at the end. It was just 7 degrees this way, 4 degrees this way. Sometimes it just lines up and it was working. Well, anytime I ever try to do it again, it is just full on driver heel, duck hook left. Doesn't work. And that's what I saw today in the punt game was draws that were actually just straight on hooks. And Tirico was like, oh, here comes the banana boat or whatever it's called again. But then the
name
ball
a
would just
punt?
end up 7 yards out of bounds, like there was 40 miles of wind.
The way Mike was talking about it was almost, and you, for those listening, don't quite understand this. These guys went to practice on Friday, and they get special access that the other media doesn't. Well, they're not talking to like Kyle and D'Amico. You know why? They're running practice. Who are they talking to? Fucking Mitch and Robbie are shooting the shit with him on the sideline. And Mitch is telling him all these ideas he's have. Tirico's eating it up, probably telling Robbie Gold some Tiger Woods stories. And he leaves like, I got some sweet nuggets. Like, no, we don't want the banana boat. We don't want these draws. Robbie, let's just follow through your kicks. I'm not special team 101 here, but holy cannoli.
But
what?
Yeah, Niners won on Sunday night, by the way.
He did pin one at the 1 yard line.
When it was time to get clutch, he just
did a normal punt.
Yeah, when it was time to get clutch, he got clutch.
They did win 22-16.
49ers won. And as we saw today, I mean, I can't tell you. I can tell you because I gave you the stat the other day. What?
He said Mike Tirico called it a rotten banana.
A rotten banana, yeah. How many games you not flip on. I mean, I watch Red Zone. And when they show when they flip to the game and they show the two teams playing and you see the little score bar at the bottom and it has their records, it feels like half of maybe more, it feels like everybody is 3-6. I mean, there is some bad football being played out there in terms of wins and losses. So the Niners won. They're 5-4. That's important. We'll get to a lot of people in your phone and my phone complaining about Kyle Shanahan tonight, which we'll get to. Actually, some of the people in my phone were just you. So we'll get to that. But they did win the game. It was not pretty, but they did the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, you do not get style points. Like people were complaining on Saturday night about Tennessee running up the score in Missouri, and they had to run up the score. They're trying to get into the playoffs, right? It makes sense in college football for Michigan, for Ohio State, for some of these teams to run up the score, especially now that we had some losses the other night that's going to fucking open this thing up. Like winning a game 50-20 instead of winning a game 30-20 is important. There is one sport that it does not matter one iota, and that is the NFL. Like in college, it matters. Maybe even in high school, it matters. In the NFL, it does not mean shit. No matter how ugly a game looks, no matter how good a game looks, the only thing that matters is you win the game. At one point in time, I looked up, the Bears were kicking the Lions' ass. Then all of a sudden, the Lions won the game. So it's like, yeah, Justin Fields has made all these plays the last couple of weeks. They've lost the last couple of weeks.
Bills were kicking the Vikings' ass.
Kicking their ass, up 10 points, driving in, and then it all flipped 10 minutes to go. The only thing that matters is winning and losing. So we can nitpick, and we will dive into this because I think when you're a good team, like if we were doing a Chiefs podcast, they're kind of rolling now, but you would individually talk about things like they need to work on this. It's all about like, can you win playoff games? And that's now that the Niners are head above water and somehow, above 500. Because for a split second, I would say my confidence level was ebbing and flowing throughout this night. There was a point in time where I wouldn't say I was resigned they were going to lose, but I was like, well, if they do lose and they're 4-5, right? Would that have been their record?
Yeah.
They're 4-5. I was like, well, they were 4-5 last year. That's how I justified it in my head. But that's not a good place to be.
No.
And win this game, you get to 5-4. You now get Monday night in Mexico against probably Colt McCoy and just a terrible body. Even when that team wins, that body language. I mean, Kyler, can you just smile on the sideline for the love of God? He is just a mopey guy. But like you have a very good chance to get a little redemption with either a banged up Kyler or Colt McCoy, that you've put yourself in a position now to kind of get rolling. And they showed right at the end of the game before I pressed power to hop on with you, they had the list of the Niners' upcoming opponents. Like a lot of their records aren't good. Like you said, like that's part of the NFL. But I mean, when you see the Saints record, right? When you see the Commanders record, who's probably going to lose tomorrow, the Raiders. I mean, they got some teams that, and I do think when
the Raiders aren't part of the group, John. They're the second worst record in the NFL.
True, but I think when we look at the
CJ Stroud right now,
when we look at the Cardinals, like they got Ertz was carted off today. Like that's a team that, I haven't seen the spread, but the Niners are going to be favored in that game it's technically a Cardinals home game, but it's a neutral site. who I mean, I would imagine the 49ers have more fans. But my point is, like, be one thing, like, well, you're favored against the Cardinals and you're 4-5. Like, you're 5-4, you win that game, you're 6-4. All of a sudden, it feels like you got some momentum. Now you got to figure some things out, and I guess one way I would justify would be the wrong way to put it. Coming off a bye, still, integrating some new people, missing some, defensive players kind of coming in and out. Wasn't pretty. You are playing a quarterback that I know, Kyle Shanahan would give anything to have on his team. So would a lot of teams, right? I don't see how you watch that guy and go like, that guy's not really good. I mean, who's he playing with right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of nobodies relative to who he's supposed to be playing with. No, he's fantastic. I think, like, on the 50,000 feet, it was a good day for the 49ers too, because Seattle lost early in Germany to Tampa. And so now they're 6-4, and the Niners are 5-4, and obviously they've beaten them head to head. So
Rams died today.
Rams died. Yeah, Rams lost to the Cardinals. They're 3-6. Arizona's 4-6. So
you see, Kupp kind of had to be carried to the bench.
Yeah, I think the initial reports that I read this afternoon on Twitter were that they were that it may not be as bad as they thought, but
I saw a headline said McVay, it didn't look good. So
yeah, I mean, they're 3-6, and Stafford didn't play, and it's. I don't think the funny thing today was not before Seattle played, but at some point, maybe it was yesterday, that Seattle's talking extension with Geno contract. Which, okay, whatever. It would.
But I don't think it's crazy if you do
friendly.
like 3 for 60, guarantee 40, right? What else are you gonna? What are your other options, guy?
Yeah, I mean, you're not in a position to draft a guy at this point, but you've played 10 games. Let's just long way to go.
Deshaun was a first overall a first round pick. I just mean if you can get him, I'm not paying him like $80 million, but if you get him for guarantee him $25 million, you'd pay him to.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The odds are you're not going to upgrade this offseason, but
plus you can still draft a guy if you feel necessary.
Yeah,
because I don't know if you noticed Denver lost again.
I did notice that Denver lost again,
but they're still not in last place in their division. You notice that?
I also noticed that, John. Again, there's a lot of three. They have 3 wins. There's a lot of teams with 3. There's only one team in the NFL with 2. There's only one team in the NFL with 1. The Raiders have 2. The Texans have 1.
Kind of crazy. The Niners and the Chargers have the same record, but I mean that's what happened. I mean, the Chargers did come in at 5-3, so if they would have won this game, they would have been in pretty good shape. Now they play the Chiefs. Yeah, I guess they get the Chiefs at home, right? Because they played Kansas City, whatever, second night
now. But I mean, now they lose that game, they're 5-5. But whatever. The AFC they're probably still a playoff team, unless the fighting Colts.
Chargers Chiefs Sunday night next week.
Yeah, because I think they got flexed into it. I think it's what Tirico was saying. Isn't that next Sunday?
Oh yeah, I guess we're in week 11 next week, right?
I saw one of the Mike Reese, ESPN, tweeted today. He's like, Raiders have they have a late season Sunday night game. I don't remember who it is. He's like, you gotta wonder. It's Raiders Patriots, week 15.
Oh yeah, because he's a Patriot guy. If they're gonna get booted out of that.
He's like, you got to wonder if that game's going to get flexed. I was like, Mike, no, you don't. You don't have to wonder. It's getting flexed.
Adios.
Mike on the stream says, you guys too cocky for a Jimmy team. Oh, which reminds me, I saw that. Well, I'll get to Jimmy coming up later. Let's talk about what I think a lot of people came out of that game feeling. We started it with some positivity. There's some other good things to talk about. But I think, like, the general feeling from people, you're getting text DMs, I'm getting text DMs. I got a text. I had a thread going with a buddy who was just, that Niners last drive was just furious. Not even a Niner fan. He's like, I don't watch the Niners a lot, but why are they so boring on offense?
Guy, I was screaming at my TV at a principle of, you have an all-star team on offense. And I get you have wet dreams to run plays. I'm not even trying to be funny. I mean, I have never seen a modern day coach love running as much, especially a younger coach. He's addicted to running, guy. He's addicted to running the ball, which I'm all for, because there is an element of toughness that comes along with that. Like, I like that to be the ethos of your team. I have no problem with it. I'm a big Jim Harbaugh guy. Same thing. He's wired like that. I think Bill, deep down, like, I have no problem with running it when you can establish and shove a guy around. They had clear mismatches on the outside. Like, they can't cover Brandon Aiyuk. Like, they can't cover Juwan Jennings. Like, you can go 4 or 5 wide. I don't know. You have this guy named George Kittle who's pretty good pass catcher. Like, you can put him in the slot. You can spread it out and not run like 7-step drops and not do like an Andy Reid just pass it all the time offense. But it was pretty clear that like you were going to be able to throw it around, get rid of the ball quickly. And like to Kyle, that means those quick screens, which I am okay with doing it every once in a while. I thought he fucking held on to those things a little too hard, especially when Jimmy was not comfortable. Like, the ball was kind of flying on him. It's borderline embarrassing sometimes how unwilling he is to just call a pass play. And then he gets in positions where he doesn't have a choice. And then it just works. It's like, Kyle, you've drafted these guys and paid these guys a lot of money. Why? Because they're really good. I saw somehow, it was on Instagram. Daniel Jeremiah tweeted it out. And it came on my Instagram feed that he said, I've never, because obviously he does the Chargers broadcast. So he studied the 49ers. And he's like, in all my years around the NFL, almost 2 decades, I've never seen a team run so violently after the catch. He's like, it is. They're the most violent after the catch team I think I've ever seen. Well, throw them the ball, you know? And I don't, like those screens, he's just addicted to that fucking play. How often is that play honestly going to work? And you have one of the great screen players of all time in Deebo Samuel. Can you just run him like a slant? Can you just run him a quick out? Like that serves the same purpose. And you know what? It just gets him one-on-one with the guy instead of like, well, if Juszczyk slips or if Trent Williams can't get there, then he's got to make 3 guys miss and break a tackle. Like, I just don't see why you can't run some basic pass plays when you have an all-star team of pass catchers.
Well, I thought it was funny at the very beginning of the game when Melissa Stark said, Christian McCaffrey got in the huddle and said, I feel like I'm at the Pro Bowl. Well, early on, the Niners were kind of playing like Pro Bowl offense where you got all these stars. And this is what I've been saying for a few weeks. There is only one ball. And I know, and I just saw, I lost the comment here. Somebody made the comment, which is a good comment. Like, the Chargers were very depleted on their defensive front in particular. And that's the type of team that you want to attack with the run. Somebody else said, well, they're breaking off. McCaffrey's breaking off 7-8 yard runs. Well, by the end of the day, McCaffrey averaged under 3 yards a carry, as it turned out. I do think fundamentally there's something to be said for the Chargers are very depleted on defense. You want to shove the ball down their throat. I get that. I agree with that.
And they were doing it. I mean, you can do both.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here is not just this game. It's the big picture. It's that it is not an automatic that with all these star players, the 49ers offense is dynamic, right? And in the red zone, especially when it's harder to just pound the rock, as we saw multiple times today, they did not have a lot going on in the red zone. Now, they should have scored that touchdown. Aiyuk, I think Aiyuk actually was going to the ground. I think he thought it was going to be a low throw, and it came up high on him. It was a good throw by Jimmy. I'm not blaming him, but I think that's what happened on that play. That should have been a touchdown. But their inability to score touchdowns in the red zone sometimes is, I think, the most infuriating part, especially when it's on that first drive and it's, this whole, this might be the best drive of the game for them. So,
because what usually happens, run, and then he passes on third down, right? That happens a lot.
Although I know, early, this isn't the final numbers. I did chalk it up near the end of the game. They were 8 first down passes, 8 second down passes, and 7 third down passes. So that's not all of Jimmy's throws because he made 28 throws, and that is 16 plus 7 is 23. But, for a portion of the game, that's it. Because my feeling was they were only throwing it on third down, which was not necessarily the case. We'd have to look at the downs and distances. But ultimately, the bottom line was to score 22 points and to really struggle to score 22 points and to struggle to score touchdowns. They're just going to have to be better than that on offense if they're going to actually be a team that can win playoff games this year.
Well, I would go in reverse. I would throw the ball on first down. And then, if you're going to hit half those passes, you're going to be in conducive plays 2nd and 2. Sometimes you'll just get a first down. It'll give you some breathing room. Even when the Chargers are losing guys left and right. I mean, it felt like the 49ers, right? The amount of guys that they were losing, and clearly they came into this game with a lot of guys out. They still have NFL players on their team, like guys from the practice squad, guys they've claimed.
Like the Colts.
Yeah. So when they know you're going to run the ball, my mom knows you're going to run, you know they're going to run, everyone listening knows they're going to run, they can just tell everyone to trigger on the snap toward the line of scrimmage, right? And to me, I was thinking a couple times when that was happening time after time on the last several drives, you got this $15 million tight end, or you got this guy named Debo. What if you ran like a stutter and go? What if you just sent him down the seam? What if you just had a curveball? But Kyle, why do I even think that? Because I know, nope, we're going to run it. It's like, holy fuck. And I understand, like, you want to take advantage of their weakness, but aren't you kind of playing chess too? Like, if they're selling out and you have back-to-back drives of them just selling out, why don't you hit a curveball? Just take a shot. And when I say a shot, I don't mean like 7-step drop, throw a go route. I just mean something just instead of, he's going to pass it. What's he going to do here? Fucking jailbreak screen to McCaffrey or Debo. It's like, it's coming.
Yeah, the part of it, I mean, being
I thought Kyle had a shitty night. I thought he had a really shitty night.
Being in second and long for them is a bad place to be. I think he really despises, right, not getting anything on first down, or obviously negative yardage on first down. But
and we're not arguing. I mean, they're 1-2 punch right now with those running backs are awesome. Like I'm pro running the ball, but Kyle's inability to, like, hey man, you can just go like 3 straight plays, 4 or 5 wide, and those running backs can catch. Like they can be part of it. That's the thing. It happened a couple times and it worked. A couple must downs. What happened? They threw it to like their 4th, 5th weapon, Jawan Jennings, who looks like, if you just watched the NFL today and you went, he's a $10 million guy, people would believe you. Like if you didn't know anything, the way he looks, the way
he is on third. He is on 3rd and 7.
I just, but for them to win big, or maybe they're just going to play in this game every single week.
Well, that's the fear. That's the fear, is that they're going to play in that game every week, and that 16-13 is just. That was the drive to me. 16-13, it was just about trying to end the game. It was like they were trying to get a 7-minute drive to end that game, or a 6-minute drive to end that game. It ended up being a 4.5-minute drive, and they kicked the field goal on the goal line, or they lost a yard on the goal line and then kicked the field goal. But it felt like the point of that drive, number one, was to kill the clock. But killing 4 minutes when there's 6 minutes left, when the other team has 3 timeouts and they have Justin Herbert, albeit he doesn't have, his weapons, what did you really accomplish if you kill the clock and they have 2 minutes for a real NFL offense with 3 timeouts you didn't kill the clock. So you spend 4.5 minutes trying to kill the clock. You end up kicking a field goal. Now, I mean, as it turned out, it worked out, but that to me was the most frustrating drive. The mindset was, let's kill the clock with a 3-point lead and 6 minutes left. When the mindset should be, let's score a touchdown and end the game.
But even if you think back to early in the game, the first couple drives, I think the second drive, Aiyuk fumbles. It was clear. It's like, I don't think they're going to be able to cover this guy. And in fairness, I don't know if you've watched Aiyuk the last month, and Kyle even talked about it. He's been playing the best football of his life. The eye test, the stat test, he fucking looks awesome. Feed him the rock. Like, or just keep using him throughout first, second, and third downs.
Yeah. I did think, like, he ends the game with 6 catches for 84 yards. He probably felt like, but like Kittle had 2 catches or 1 catch, 2 targets, 1 catch. At this point, comparing Kittle and Kelsey,
they don't play the same game.
It's like comparing a defensive tackle and a corner. It's like they're not playing the same position, And it's that is not a negative on George. It's just they are not. To compare those 2 guys, but
it's
like it's like saying they're 2 great defensive players, and one of them is Warren Sapp and one of them is Deion Sanders.
So it's like, okay, they're missing defensive tackles, and in theory, you should be able to run it right down their throat nonstop.
Yeah.
Well, they also can't cover 11, so you can get, like, if he had 9 or 10 catches, you're going to have so many more first downs. Like, ultimately, it's not very likely you're going to get a first down on a 1st and 10 run, right? That is a huge bonus. But in Kyle's mind, I think he thinks that's like more likely. I don't know.
I think he just wants to take, you'll go take 8 yards on a first down run, right?
I just can't get over how conservative he is with the weapons he has. That's what's pretty wild. I would get it if he's playing with Can you imagine if he played a game with what the Chargers just played a game with? I don't know what he'd do.
I do.
He just handed to Eckler all the time?
It looked the same. That's the point. It would look that is the point, John. It would look the same, right?
That's he's got to be better.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be running back, McCaffrey throwing the ball on some throwback pass. It's not about doing crazy shit necessarily. But in theory, somebody should be open because they're all so hard to cover, and this defense is selling out, for the run.
The other thing is, at this point in time, to me,
wide open out of nowhere. Where was that play?
Well, to me, early in a season, every team starts like your team doesn't carry over. So last year, just because they made the NFC Championship game and they were tough as shit, they're not guaranteed to be the same thing, right? It's every coach says that. There's turnover with players. There's new guys that start. But like, it's pretty clear, like the team's tough. Like, no one has any qualms. Like, do they got guys you want to go to war with? They do. We know it. Like, no one questions. Like, can you get in the trenches with these boys? Fuck yes. Okay. The goal now should be kicking ass and taking names. No, it's like we got to establish. No, you don't. Like, you're tougher than the Chargers. That before the game is even snapped, they got like 3 guys that can hang with your toughness. Khalil Mack, Derwin James, like Herbert. Other than that, you're tougher than them, okay? So how can you get to like 30-plus points where they can't sniff that instead of like, let's just hold on for dear life with our 19? It's like,
exactly.
Oh my God, this is crazy. How does he – Kyle, you want to know how you went from a 40-year-old to now being 43 and looking like you're 56? Because you're playing like this. Fuck, Andy's looked the same now for like 7 years. He's having a blast. Like, you can throw some touchdowns and everyone breathes a little bit easier. Wasn't the Rams game fun? Let's just score some touchdowns. Not the old-fashioned way of just run up the gut. They don't see this coming. Let's hit the edge. No, Kyle, they do. No one disputes you're not the undisputed run game king in the NFL. Like, you got all these markets cornered. Team's tough as shit. You guys got a great run game, but there are times in the game like they can't cover some of these guys. You can throw them the ball past the line of scrimmage, and they did it a couple times, and it worked easily. I mean, what would Justin Herbert have done? Can I just borrow Brandon Aiyuk? Can I just borrow Juwan Jennings? Kyle's like, no, I need him to run block
or have two level, or have 2 Austin Ecklers like you guys have, right? They got 2 of them. They got the 2 of them. Plus they got Debo. And I'm not blaming Kittle, by the way. Like he's got to help block, clearly.
No, it's his role.
Like they need that. I don't know if you saw the clip, McGlinchey on the 3rd and goal, but just Jeff Schwartz can break it down. I guess I missed. I didn't block anybody, and his guy made the play. And then the Niners kicked the field goal. So, and I don't,
this is at the end of the one that got to 22, like the final drive before they kicked.
Yeah,
it
where
off.
Elijah Mitchell went down that play.
Yeah. So you're saying that guy came in and flipped?
Yeah,
he did kind of trip on that, but you're saying McGlinchey didn't touch a soul.
Well, I think McGlinchey, maybe he did trip. I only saw a clip just real quick, so I'm not into.
I thought Elijah kind of tripped, but
I did too.
I understand. Like at that point in time, you're playing the clock. There were times on previous drives where they just could have passed. And when I say pass, I don't mean like 20 yards down the field. You can run just like quick out routes that gain you basic yards, and you have the greatest after the catch guys in like modern history. Like 4 of them on your team, including the running backs.
I know you're not criticizing the last drive, but I do think there's a fundamental. It's like if you let Kyle Shanahan rework an NFL game, he would change it from a 60-minute game to a 50-minute game and cut 10 minutes off the fourth quarter and just play the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Right? Like they so often play in games where it feels like they are just trying to get to the finish line with a 3-point lead. Like, all right, we took a 3-point lead. Let's just nurse this sucker to the finish line. Like driving a car that's on E and you're just throwing it in neutral every time you're coming down a hill to try and make it home. It'll be a great story. We pushed the gas tank to the limit, everybody, but didn't even fill up once. That's the feeling you get, right? A lot. And that to me is where we talk about that late drive. It felt like it was about killing the clock when it was too much time. Just go score a touchdown. That will end the game. That will end the game. So when Eric on the stream says, why is every Niner game a roller coaster? I think it's partly that it's like get a lead and then just nurse that bad boy all the way to the end. And it puts the defense in these spots where all of a sudden they're like, all right, fellas, 2 minutes left. The other quarterback's got 3 timeouts. Don't let him get a field goal.
Well, you know the drives where a team has one less than their full arsenal of timeouts. So it's like you get to that third down, you're like, well, we run it, take 40 seconds off the clock. Let's say if it's like, at the 2-minute warning, get them down at minimum to 120. They got no timeouts. Or do we go for the kill shot? The Niners weren't even in that position. It was like they got all their timeouts, Kyle. So they're going, unless you score, they're calling a timeout. They're getting the ball back. And I don't think it even crossed his mind to pass. Like it's not even that's not the way he's wired. Like I think Sean Payton's, the Andy Reid's, hell, even Pete Carroll, I think it would cross their mind like, let's get super ballsy. Because I told you before I think, hopped on, Collinsworth, when they got stuffed on the Mitchell play and they basically went from the 1 probably to like the 2.5.
Yeah.
He's like, I wonder if Kyle would have gone for it. And you said, I bet he would have ran the quarterback sneak. And maybe, but I think in his mind, I get that extra field goal. They got to score a touchdown. My defense has been playing great. Like, I would have bet against him going for it. Now, if he did go for it, I would have bet on the quarterback sneak, not some crazy play. But the Kyle Shanahan that I've been watching now for whatever year he's in, 5.5, like it's pretty clear the way he's wired and what he leans. And there's a difference of like going forward every once in a while, like in nut cutting time, in a tight game, in a 2 or 3 point game or a 3-point game to make it a 6 or go for it. Like I think he would have kicked the field goal there. I think he would have kicked the field goal there if he just would have been stuffed at the 1 yard line. If it would have just not gone back.
Yeah. He might have. I'm not
based on his you'd say based on his history, he'd be more inclined to kick the field goal than roll the dice. Even though Collinsworth, like if he rolls the dice, so what? You give him at the 1 yard line. They got no timeouts.
It's not totally illogical to kick the field goal. I get it. You make them drive the field, score a touchdown. They have struggled to do that. I understand it. But to me, part of it is what you just said. Like you're just going to put them in the end zone where they just were. And Justin Herbert was under pressure on every play. I mean, they did bring a lot of heat in the second half of the game and put him in a lot of bad spots. But you're right. I mean, history tells us that he would have kicked that field goal if that ball was on the 1 inch line. I would have liked to have seen him go for it, try and score the touchdown. A lot of Twitter was very mad at him, John. I'm here to report to you, but you can't really use that to gauge anything because I think a lot of people had the Niners -7 and really wanted them to kick to score the touchdown, not kick the field goal. So I think that's probably why one of my buddies was texting me so angry. I think he probably had the Niners -7. But take that with a grain of salt. But the sneak they are incredibly good at the sneak. They are Jimmy. You watched some bad sneaks today. I watched Josh Allen, the Bills, struggle to sneak. The exchange part of it's difficult, but they're obviously very good at that. So it wouldn't have surprised me if they had gone for it in that spot.
For them to win a Super Bowl, whether it's with Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's with Trey Lance coming back, whether it's when they signed Tom Brady this offseason, he's got to be aggressive. That is the only way to win it. It's the only way to consistently win big games. Like you're not always going to have some crazy punt block in a game where your offense is shitty, right? I mean, sometimes you got to put your nuts on the table. And it just feels he is always inclined to not do that. And I think he's just always going to lean with the defense. And as we've seen going back to their, probably their second worst loss of the season, maybe the worst loss, the Denver game, he played that way. And even Russell Wilson, who was having probably the worst season of his career. I haven't looked at his numbers. I mean, they scored 10 points today. What did he do against them? Pulled a Russell Wilson drive out of the hat and beat when their defense was fully healthy at the time and drove right down the field because football's hard. And the one thing I do agree with the analytical elites is like they just tend to be more aggressive. Like I'm cool with taking field goals in certain spots, like Sean McDermott not taking the field goal up 10 when they're not doing shit, and then he goes for it and they throw a pick. Like that was a devastating momentum transition. But in a position where it's like, Kyle, you can stick a knife in their throat. And even if you don't, even if you miss their throat, the defense is right there and they're pinned up against it. He's just not inclined to do that. Like even then when he kicks the field goal and then he kicks off to him, if you told me he went for it at the 2 yard line, I wouldn't have been critical of him. I wouldn't have. And they would have got stuffed. Then they kick the ball off and it's like, well, he doesn't even get close to the end zone. I'm just thinking, what if this guy ran it back? He didn't, but I'm just saying, like, it crossed my mind when he caught it at like the 7-yard line with a lot of
100%.
space. I'm just like,
if you
they're
fail,
in this
you know where
position-
they're going to have the ball on the one.
on the one, and your defense can already kind of basically they can swarm. Your defense is fast. It's going to be hard for them to go 50 yards given who they're playing with. But that's just not the way he thinks. And I'm not the most conservative individual by nature in terms of like being aggressive with my life. So I don't relate to that well, especially when you have the advantage. Like, Kyle, you have the players. Like when some people yell, the number of guys over the years have gotten mad when people don't go for it, like with the shitty teams. Like, well, they have the worst offense in the league. Their offensive line's awful. It's like, Kyle, you got a loaded gun here. So even if you miss, like, you're shooting hollow points here, buddy. And even when he tries to be aggressive, it's like, God, Kyle, you're running these fucking jailbreak screens just because it worked against Chicago. It's like you're making it so hard on Debo. I'd rather just have you hand the ball to him.
Or so I prefer.
He loves that. He loves that play way more than I do. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'd scrap the play, but I would kind of move on from it a little bit.
And then every once in a while, it'll just, if the throw's right, it can just be an automatic 8, and sometimes it's a touchdown. But I'm with you. I do think there is a part of this that is, I mean, a larger part of it, whatever the percentage is, 80% of it, that's just fundamentally who he is. I do think part of it is a general lack of trust in Jimmy Garoppolo, even though Jimmy made the throw that Garoppolo made to Aiyuk on 3rd down and long was very good. I mean, he made some really good throws today. But I do think that part of it is
he's your quarterback, though, guy. You're in the boat with him. You don't
no,
have
I get
choice.
it, but with a lead, trailing, whatever, like there is a fundamental. One of this team's fundamental flaws, and we've talked about it for years, is that they can't strike quickly. They just generally don't. Right? So I've been calling it the Princeton offense for years. It takes 7 things to go well: backdoor cut, good screen, good block on the backside, nice fundamental bounce pass, nice catch, layup, 2 feet, both feet, right hand, left hand. Like it takes all of this stuff consistently. That's not new with them, and that's not.
Well, the coach calls a lot of run plays on drives, so I mean that's slow. That takes some time, I would say.
Yeah, but
when Jimmy's off.
But I think it's not debatable that they cannot strike quickly with any consistency. They don't get the ball down the field effectively, like 20 yards over the middle, over the top, 40 yards over the top. And I know people, look at the yards per attempt. Yeah, I know. I see the throws. I watch the game. They don't put it over the top of anybody for the most part. They don't hit that throw. They tried like 3 times to Danny Gray. I haven't seen him in weeks.
Yeah.
Just gave up on it. Like that's over. That play doesn't work. Right? They gave up on it. They don't do that. They cannot consistently do it. They just can't.
Well, they hit Aiyuk a couple times over the middle of the day on some explosive throws.
Yes, but I mean, those plays are different than the over-the-top throws that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm not even asking for over the top.
No,
I'm just asking for like a 10-yard out.
This is a separate point from the point you're making. I think fundamentally what he wants to do and what he is what you're saying. But I do think we have to acknowledge that part of this is also they are offensively limited, because that is not a strength of Jimmy. It's not a strength of Jimmy Garoppolo. It is not a part of his game.
And they don't really have. I mean, Aiyuk in theory could be. Debo's not. Kittle's a tight end. Juwan Jennings is not. They don't have a deep quote unquote threat. I would say a true, a guy that truly, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I would throw a ball. I would just call the plays. I mean, that's
but they don't. I mean, you and I watch practice. Like Debo's not run and go routes on people.
Well, no, not on Debo. But I'm just saying, I think Aiyuk can run a go route. I do believe he could.
I would think. I mean, I bet if we watch his college tape, we'd see him.
He just doesn't call the play.
Yeah, I think he doesn't call the play because it doesn't work, because Jimmy doesn't hit it. Jimmy does other things well.
But the only way you know something doesn't work, the only way is if you run in a game.
But I think I'm pretty confident it doesn't work. I've seen Jimmy throw the deep ball over the top enough to know they don't hit it.
What about his rollout to Ray?
That was one of the best plays of his life, I think. And I'm not seriously, like, it was an incredible. What does he make that play?
In that practice with the trainers, he used to work on that. Remember?
Yeah, I guess you're right. That was a really strong throw.
It was good. Hit Ray. Good. That's a great little, like, Ray was just sitting there, and then he knows when he scrambles to just go deep. That was genius.
Yeah, it was kind of like the McCaffrey touchdown against the Rams, kind of. But
yeah, so
that was a really good
it was a deep explosive play where the guy was actually just stopped at the line of scrimmage and took off.
It was a delay. It's like a delayed steal, a delayed go route, which
But he only delays and takes off because Jimmy moves, right? If Jimmy doesn't move, he doesn't budge.
No, he's the safety valve. Yeah. Scramble drill or whatever. Well, remember we talked to Dante Whitner about it on the show. And if you missed Dante the other day, it was really good. But he was like, no, it's just scramble rules. You just go.
And that is scramble rules, right? When you're onto this guy's side, you go. Especially he had a linebacker on him. Can't remember Ray. I don't know if you checked Ray's Instagram. Ray's fly cat, man.
I think you sent me a photo of Ray's outfit the other day.
Yeah, he had like bell bottoms on. Ray's got some curveballs.
John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about our friends at sleepnumber.com/ham. Sleepnumber.com/ham. Whether you like it sleeping a little softer, like Middlecoff Sleep Number 40, or me, a little firmer, 55. Sleepnumber.com/ham. Choose proven quality sleep from Sleep Number and discover special offers for a limited time right now at sleepnumber.com/ham.
Yep, Sleep Number. Turn the lights off. Get a good night's sleep. Cool down the room. That's key. Cool down the room. I like it ice cold. Don't sleep too hot. Hard to get a good night's sleep. Don't sleep too cold. Try to find the right temperature. Try to find the right outfit. I'm just a basketball shorts, that it guy.
Right outfit.
If I sleep with a shirt guy, I don't sleep.
Yeah.
I cannot. When I see these movies of men sleeping in pajamas, my first reaction is like, is this guy really sleeping? Like, because I can't sleep with. Can you sleep in pants? I can't sleep in pants.
Nope. It's 17 degrees. I will be in boxers, and that's it.
It'd be impossible for me to fall asleep in pants
with a leg out.
Yeah, it just wouldn't even work. But can't recommend enough. You get in a Sleep Number, you put on your right outfit, you'll be sleeping like a baby. Proven quality sleep from Sleep Number, because to be your best every day, proven quality sleep is needed every night. Discover special offers now for a limited time at your local Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com/ham.
I'll say this real quick too. Consider a dual control mattress layer or blanket that allows you to individualize your warmth on either side. And there's temperature benefit beds. New Sleep Number Climate 360 smart bed that actively warms and cools on each side, so you both sleep blissfully comfortably. Sleepnumber.com/ham. All right, what's next?
Let's go positive.
Okay.
Because
where do you want to go?
Well, I give this guy's mom some credit. She was flossing tonight. How about Bosa's mom's outfit?
The chain. Did you see the big old chain she was wearing?
The chain, what her hat say? Football mom.
Yeah, but it was like bedazzled.
Oh, it was sweet. The dual jersey. That woman has given birth to Joey's really good. I feel like Nick's a mutant. Like, Joey's a really good player. You feel very good about him going in the top 5. When he's on the field, he's been fantastic. Nick is on a different level. Nick's stance that he's got going now, and he's always had it, I feel like it's even getting, he's personalizing a little bit. This sprinter stance that it feels like every time the ball is snapped, he's got a chance to just wreck shop. And he had his ninth sack tonight, 9.5 sacks. At the end of the game, on multiple drives, he was all over fucking Herbert. I mean, one play, he had a 360 on the final drive. I guess it wasn't technically the final drive, but then Kyle did a quick 3-and-out field goal.
You're talking about the end zone, the Chargers end zone drive where they were in there.
Yeah, he did this 360 on the tackle, and luckily the guard came to help and clipped him, or he would have killed Herbert. He just looks, he's everything you want when you draft a guy really high and you want to build your defense around the guy. And I also think he took some shit last year because, I don't think he quite played at his level. He just got paid. I think by the end of the season, he said he felt pressure to live up to the hype. And by the end of the season, remember, Fred was awesome. I remember the Packer game and the Cowboy game in the playoffs. Like, Fred Warner was everything you'd want out of a star linebacker. He's dominated this year. And he was, like, when Greenlaw got thrown out of the game, and I despise throwing an athlete out of a game.
I didn't know they were throwing NFL guys out of games, John. I'll be honest with you.
It really bothers me.
I was stunned when they threw Dre Greenlaw out of that game.
I was as well. But I wasn't that worried because 54 makes every tackle. And there was a screenplay where he triggered so fast, even Collinsworth, like, Best screen linebacker I've ever seen. Those two guys were kicking the shit out of everyone tonight.
4 quarterback hurries, 3 TFLs. I don't know if that counts on the. I think it was the second down play, the second or the third down play when Herbert was in his end zone at the end of the game. Bosa took Foster Sorrell, the right tackle, making his first career start at right tackle, just basically to the goalpost, to the base of the goalpost. And he never got to Herbert because he got like kind of, I don't know if I'd have to see it. Maybe Sorrell like kind of hugged him and took him with him. But he got off the ball so fast and just into his chest so fast. It is everything that every guy says they are in the spring is what Bosa actually is. You know, when the spring starts and it's like, I'm back faster than ever. I'm in the best shape of my life.
Well, it's like
I've
fish only diet, no sodas, cut sugars, climbing Mount Everest. I'm ready.
And just most times it's, you know, you're playing against a bunch of other guys and they're also in the best shape of their life, quote unquote. And it all comes out in the wash. Not with Nick. He said he was better than he's been, faster than he's ever been. And I think that's the part with him is he does look like he's better than he's ever been this year.
What about the end around play they tried to get him on Chief style and he grabbed him and Collinsworth dropped that's why you lift all them weights and he grabbed him and then the other hand got him. Khalil had a play like that earlier in the game too. I mean, those guys get their paws on you. But you see, like if you just watch football, a lot of guys get the one hand, they slip out. Like it's probably you got to be a little stronger than even you think for the bigger guys. And they both grabbed them, whoof, and the guy stopped quick.
He like sat down and was just holding on to him. There's nowhere for the guy to go. Just okay, drag me like a sled. You're not going to be able to. But you're right. Fred was all over the place. When it's weird, right? I don't know that you usually think of defensive players as being on or off, even though of course they are. Right? You can have a bad game with your eyes. You can start trying to do things outside of your role. You hear defensive coaches talk about that a lot, trying to make a play that isn't yours to make, and then you start pushing or pressing and pressing.
Well, it throws out the whole defense when you take out a gap. Like it's all gap scheme, gap sound, right? So if I have a gap, you have a gap, the next guy has a gap. Well, if I think the guy's going in your gap and I come over there, then he cuts to my gap and he goes for 40. Like that's my fault, even though it might look like it. Did you see how fast MIDDLEKAUFF was in that gap? No, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Or plays get made when you screw up, you know?
It feels like Fred at times it's kind of been like that. Like he's kind of, but right now he
had 3 PBUs tonight.
I saw that. He's playing at a very high level.
I feel like
they had some drops. I thought,
dominating.
The Chargers missed a couple third down plays early in the game, had a drop on a touchdown. They helped. The Chargers helped early. The Niners defense does tend to kind of get going. Playing from behind makes life a little more difficult for them.
There was the one play that it looked like he was throwing it to Hufunga's guy, but he was actually throwing it to the other guy, and he hit him, and they ended up, I think, holding him to a field goal on the drive.
They had a false start on that drive,
But that visual of like, I missed him. Oh my God, what? That play was crazy. I would say the 49ers safeties in coverage, are a little bit of a liability. Like they're not, that's the area the teams are attacking, right? Feels like those guys are usually chasing when you feel relatively close. Like their corners, unlike last year, are not getting smoke left and right. Now, tonight's a bad example. They're missing Mike Allen and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen.
But those are not, Keenan Allen's not a downfield smoker. Mike, maybe.
No, but it just would have helped them. If those two guys are healthy, the ebb and flow of those two guys, it would have been a little bit of a problem tonight. Because the Niners came in, they just, they had a bye week kind of meh to them.
Yeah.
Bosa didn't, and Fred didn't. Yeah. Kyle did.
Devin says fast, small receivers like DeAndre Carter and Mecole Hardman are dangerous to our slower-ish secondary. But was it Carter that caught that first touchdown where it was just,
kind of like that guy. He's growing on me a little bit as Ray.
He
runs hard on his returns.
Yeah, he's had a few moments to me that been a little dicey, but he's made some big plays for them too this year. He has left his fingerprint is on the season. He's made some big plays for them.
If he was a baseball player, he'd be a utility backup who pitch hits and makes some plays in the field. Like, he'd grow on you as the season went on, because he'd lose some games by striking out looking and then break his bat. But then he'd also like hit a ball off a wall when you're down 2 and like spark a rally. And then he'd be like going nuts on second base, pointing at everybody.
Yeah, who would he be?
The Niners haven't really had him the last couple of years.
Well, a guy that's dynamic, but is not one of your top 1, 2, or 3 guys, right?
Yeah. And I mean, they really haven't had a returner for a couple.
That's what's crazy. For as talented as they are on offense, they're also deep. Like, they also have Jennings, they also have Ray. It's
I would say one thing with their red zone issues, like when the Chargers have everyone healthy, they're big in the red zone, right? Mike Williams a big guy, Keenan Allen's a big guy, Gerald Everett's a big guy. The Niners, I mean, their 1-2 receivers are just smaller players. Like, Aiyuk's got to win like he did, sweet route. I would say Debo's not really a red zone player.
Yeah, not.
I mean, him and Kyle just don't really. I mean, unless you're running it to him or like a pitch sweep or a screen. Like, when does Debo like run routes in the red zone? You know, it's not. And they just Kittle. Some just has games where they don't even fucking call his number. Like, you would think in theory, like, why can't we figure something out for 85? I watched the Chiefs. Like, who scored? Oh, Kelsey. Where were they? They're the 7-yard line. You know, they just we'll just try to run it in or something.
Right. But the thing about those games like this one where he has 1 catch is it's not like he doesn't, you know, if we went to count how much did George contribute,
when we're on
every
Kyle
play
about Kittle, not Kittle about
No, I know you're not. But you're right. I mean, the red zone is problematic.
Yeah.
And it's for a reason.
Just think he wants to run it in.
Well, yeah, but there's also who's your one-on-one, I'm just going to win in the red zone guy. You know, Aiyuk, like, you need to be able to run a precise route in the red zone. Now,
he
the
can.
Route he caught, the ball he didn't catch was a fantastic route.
But he's had red zone touchdowns, right, with route running. When I think of Aiyuk, he scored red zone. Could they maybe implement in practice some fades with Juwan Jennings? He might drop him in practice. He catches them in the games. He is a body that would work down there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They got to figure something out, because what they've had going is not. You can be like, well, Jimmy, because the red zone exposes quarterbacks. True, but the plays they call are just DOA. I mean, they're just like, yeah, this ain't going to work.
Elijah Mitchell came back, John. He had 18 carries, for 89 yards, 5 yards a carry. McCaffrey had 14 carries for 38 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. McCaffrey had 6 targets and 4 catches for 39 yards. Elijah Mitchell had 1 reception going backwards. I don't think box score tells the McCaffrey impact. Box score kind of tells the Mitchell impact. He definitely had a big impact on the game.
Well, to me, when they run for over 150 yards in a game, like, they're going to be in the game 150 plus. Like, that is. Now, I push back. I don't love it all the time in certain situations, but it is effective. Like, you're right. When you look at McCaffrey's line, it doesn't quite add up to what I saw, because I think he's been fantastic. And Elijah Mitchell, listen, it makes sense when you watch this game why Jeff Wilson, like, what was Jeff Wilson going to do, right? He was not going to play. Now, you're just basically would have kept him for insurance if one of these 2 guys go down. But if these 2 guys stay erect, they're getting all the carries. And part of Kyle's team is like, the 2 running backs basically account for over 30 carries. Just the 2 of them. Like, those 2 guys are going to touch the ball a lot just moving forward. I mean, that's just a fact. Whether I like it or not, again, I'm not against running, but they are more likely to combine for 35 and cut out, the touches for the outside guys than their likelihood to be like, they only touched the ball 24 times and they got an extra 6-7 to go to Debo and Aiyuk down the field. Right?
Yeah, you know what's kind of crazy looking at the box score is that to have those 2 guys, one goes for 18, one goes for 14. I wouldn't have expected another 4 for Debo on top of that. But that's what Debo had. Debo had 4 carries in the game.
Well, they definitely had they had the formations with them both in the back.
Yeah, which is cool.
They had a sweet one with McCaffrey kind of lead blocking, which, a little risky.
I didn't love it. I did not love that play. And I don't think that play gained much yardage, did it?
No, but McCaffrey flew down and hit somebody. But
Yeah, I did not.
I think
love
Debo
that
got
play.
tackled. It might have
I
been
did
Mitchell.
not.
I forget who it was, but
I would like that play. Is like it's on film now, and everyone has to be ready for it. But I would prefer not to run McCaffrey as your lead blocker.
you don't like him running the use check roll?
No, well, yeah, use check is there,
I know.
but I thought he looked good. Somebody on the stream said they thought he looked pedestrian. I didn't. I thought Christian looked good tonight.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. I mean, Christian he's better than I realized what they were getting. And part of it, I just thought, I wouldn't say shot, but when you have that many injuries and you miss that much time, usually you're just not the same guy. And really the only thing that might be different is he's probably just top end speed, not as fast, but in terms of moves, in terms of contact, in terms of confidence, I mean, he looks like a star back, doesn't he?
There were a couple plays.
Mitchell's really natural as a runner.
He is.
I got a couple texts from like random other teams fans. They're like, God, the Niners backfield is nasty. Like, yeah,
Kyle's like,
Kyle knows.
I know. That's why I'm going to run him. I thought there were a couple plays where Christian almost broke it and didn't. And I think he probably has it in him. I don't think he'll go, it depends. He's not just going to run away from everybody for 60 yards, but I still think I think we'll see it. Like I thought he was close a couple times to just breaking one for a long run, a long touchdown. I'd be interested if you put him and Debo, the ball in their hands, and had him run, who would win that race? I mean, in theory, Christian should.
I would take Debo, I think. Ball in hand, I'm taking Debo.
Ball in hand. Yeah. Ball out of hand, Debo, all of a sudden different guy.
Yeah. One guy, he turns into Bo Jackson with the ball in his hand, and without it, he's like Kinlaw.
So, I thought it was good. We keep this Dolphins game, which is on the horizon because the Dolphins are the first place team in their division now. The darkness gave us $5 to say that the Dolphins remind me of the 2019 Niners. So much fun to watch. Kyle lost Mike McDaniel and tried to band-aid his production with CMC. Kyle needs McDaniel. I think I looked the other day. I think the Dolphins are like top 5 in the league in pass attempts this year. I'll go back and find it.
Two, just another 3 touchdowns today. No big deal.
I'll be honest, I did not watch a lot of them today.
Well, I mean, they beat the shit out of the Browns. Jeff Wilson had 119 yards. Tyreek had a touchdown. Sherfield had a touchdown. Nice touchdown. Jalen Waddle made some plays. They're just
1, 2, 3, 4. They're 7th in pass attempts, not top 5. Sherfield, huh?
Is it pretty clear that McDaniel was a guy that loved Sherfield? Is that why he stole him? Or maybe he fell in love with him once he was around him?
He's a good player. I mean, I can understand why you'd want him. I just like sometimes I watch the Dolphins, and again, I don't watch them the way I watch the Niners. So a Dolphins fan might join us and say, like, no, that's incorrect. And I'm open to being wrong about this. But sometimes I watch them, and I think it feels like at times they do what the Niners do on the opening drive, just the whole game.
Well, Tyreek's open nonstop.
That's true. He's very dynamic. But again, like the Niners aren't playing with like schmucks here.
They
don't have Tyreek.
How many pass attempts did Jimmy have today?
28.
Yeah, I mean, 2 had 32, so it didn't feel like he threw 28 times, did it? I would have guessed 20.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he was 19 to 28, which is 68% for 240, which is actually probably a little more than I would have expected too. Somebody in the chat said there was a stat, I guess, on SportsCenter after the game. Austin, Jimmy G is 10-2 in games in which he doesn't throw a touchdown pass.
So you can do that. He has this year, last year, and in 19. Like, he does have a good defense, right? You could not play like this on the Lions. You could not play like this on the Bears.
That's Kyle's argument, right? Is we play this way because this is what this is a circle, and all
this is the way we've built the squad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Kyle, are you cool with being 50 years old and you're going to look 80? Like, that's the way this is trending. Like, this is the way you just want to play forever? Like, this is crazy to me. It's just crazy. Like, hey, maybe we could win this thing like 35-16. Nope. I'm going to squeak this bad boy out 20-16. It's going to fucking feel great. Does he get more joy out of like, God damn, that was a roller coaster and we won it? Because I feel like I get more joy like watching these teams blow people out and everyone partying on the side. Like,
well, Andy Reid's just happy. All
McDaniels got the stunner shades on, and Tyreek's pointing at Drew Rosenhaus on the sideline. It's like it feels like everyone can just take a deep breath by the third quarter. Makes it a little bit easier on everyone's, their heart muscles.
Meanwhile, Kyle's wearing a hood like he's about to knock off a liquor store.
I mean, Kyle, was that cold at Levi's? Do you think he was starting to get tight? You know what else Kyle does? Kyle does not hide when he calls plays. You notice that?
Well, his plays are so long. How could you read his lips? You would need a real professional to figure out what he's saying. Kyle, I think he puts the hood on like a horse wearing blinders. It's like I don't want to know what's going on with special teams. I don't know what D'Amico's up to. I don't care. I'm here I'm focused on the field right now. 39 degrees a kick. Yeah. Well,
the Dolphins. That's how cold it.
That was Levi's. That is cold.
That is cold. The Dolphins are going to be 8-3 when they play the Niners in 2 weeks because they're playing the Texans this week. That game is, assuming that the Niners can take care of business in Mexico City. That's going to be a pretty big game. I bet it's one of the better games, record-wise of the week. I mean, do you consider the Dolphins like a lock playoff team? Like, is Mike McDaniels year one going to the playoffs with the Miami Dolphins?
I would say yes to that.
He got the Texans. They'll be 8-3. His remaining games: Niners, Chargers, Bills, Packers, Patriot, Jets. So it's his final part of the schedule is he's got a lot of hard games. Can he get to 10?
I think he's close. I mean, 10 is, 3-3 or 3-4 down the stretch, right?
Well, if he wins this week against the Texans, he just have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He just have to go 2-4 down the stretch to get to 10 if he wins against the Texans.
I mean, the AFC. Well, I mean, it's crazy to say this. The Colts actually aren't totally out of it. Now, maybe they just beat the Raiders and that was that. But Deshaun Watson comes back on Monday. He's not coming back to a team that is about to make a playoff run. They're 3-6. So, I think that was one of the questions about the AFC, just big picture, like where will the Browns be on November 14th? And the answer is not in the playoff picture right now.
Deshaun Watson's back this week?
So tomorrow he's allowed to return to practice on Monday. Yeah. I Googled it today because I was watching the Browns on Red Zone going, when's Deshaun coming back? We got to be close to Deshaun and Watson's return, and it's tomorrow.
But they're fucked, right? I mean, they're 3-6.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Miami's in really good shape. So that game is week 13. So the Niners, well, I won't look at week 13 yet, but.
That's a big game for the Niners. I mean, the Niners can't look. I mean, it'll be a tie game and then going in the fourth quarter against Colt McCoy in Mexico.
Yeah, well, I mean, Colt McCoy beat him last year.
He beat him. I mean, didn't he kick their ass?
Their ass. Yeah.
The Niners have got the last 2 years, Fitzpatrick 2 years ago and Colt last year, just a couple ass whoopings from backup quarterbacks. Now, Fitzpatrick technically was a starter. That had to be one of the greatest games of Fitzpatrick's career in 20. Remember that thing?
I do.
I mean, now Colt dinged up his knee today, but the Niners should beat I'm sorry. Like they should be able to beat the Cardinals.
Did Hopkins get his targets today? I saw one early in the game.
Yeah, when I saw he had like 9 for 90 and a touchdown. He was good. I mean, he's a monster.
He finished 10 for 98. Colt McCoy.
Colt had a good game.
Aiyuk, we've kind of talked about him a few times today, but it was funny hearing Tarico and Collinsworth talk about Aiyuk in the doghouse, which was a lifetime ago. Like that whole thing is so far gone and buried. But I thought today, just seeing him and the fumble, I don't know about you. I cut him a little slack on the fumble. He had both hands on the ball. He just spun into a helmet. And the helmet, when a helmet hits a ball that flush, I've not been in that spot, but I give you a little bit of slack because I think it's probably pretty hard to hold on to the ball in that spot.
Some fumbles are freak plays, right?
He played really well. I think
he looked sweet.
He looked awesome.
Yeah, he is sweet.
And that was with a fumble and a drop touchdown.
I think that's the frustrating part, guy. Everyone knows how sweet Debo is. We saw how sweet Christian is. Everyone has seen enough wide receiver play if you just watch football now. Aiyuk is sweet, and we know how sweet Kittle is. You're like, can this not work? Even if Jimmy is just an average guy, let him throw the ball. And then Juwan Jennings starts making plays. Like, how is it not possible to just be more potent? more potent. Not necessarily explosive 30-yard bombs, but just more potent. Because there comes stretch of series when they're going 3 and out and 3 and out. You're like, how's this fucking humanly possible? The Chargers are rolling. I bet Khalil Mack's playing with guys he doesn't know their names. Because last week they did a clip when they asked, like, what's the kicker's name? Khalil was not asking the question or talking, but you could tell he had no clue. There is a strong chance there are guys he's playing with on defense that Khalil Mack could not tell you their first name and could not tell you where they went to college. And there might be part of Khalil where it's weird. He still plays kind of hard. He's checked out a little bit. It's not like, it doesn't feel like he's just the all-in young Khalil Mack, but
it does not feel the same, no.
When you're playing against these random guys, if their team was fully loaded and that defense was like we thought it was going to be with J.C. Jackson and all these defensive tackles that they had to go along with Bosa and Khalil, I would be like, okay, this is going to be difficult. But that's not the case. J.C. Jackson is torn ACL. Joey Bosa is was he even there? Did they even show him on camera? I didn't see him.
I don't know. And when Melissa Stark did the report about his mom, she said, "Joey, mute the TV. Your mom is rooting for Nick tonight."
So maybe he's at home.
Which I don't know.
You just leave. I mean, some injured players, you just get more. You stay at home.
Yeah,
that's my point. Like you should be able to. They should have been able to hit these guys with lefts, with rights, with uppercuts, with jabs, and it just felt like it's gonna hammer home this outside run. And then Kyle put his hood on, like, now we're really gonna do it. Like, okay, Kyle, Jesus.
On the stream question, we're going to address this anyway. So let me. Carlton said, "What did y'all think about the ejection?" Timothy said that ejection was absolute BS. If you didn't see it, Dre Greenlaw got ejected for a helmet-to-helmet for a pretty brutal hit on Justin Herbert when Justin Herbert was running the football to the head. Herbert had to come out of the game. Might have saved the Niners points, actually, that Herbert had to come out of the game there. And Chase Daniels' worst fears came true. He had to play. Chase Daniel came out throwing rockets.
Well, when Mike was like, he's been on the team 2 years, I'm like, Mike, did you write that down wrong? I feel like he's been on the team like 5 years. Maybe, I guess he was on the Bears a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Feels like Chase has been there a long time. Maybe it is true.
To me, one of the things that really stood out about the couple things, as someone who tries to know the rules, but I don't call NFL games, John, so I don't know all of the NFL rules. As Tirico, I heard somebody told me a few weeks ago that Tirico reads one chapter of the rule book every week to stay fresh. I was a little, it shows because stuff comes up and he knows it. I was stunned, and I mean stunned, that Dre Greenlaw got ejected from that game. It never crossed my mind that Dre, I don't know if it crossed your mind. It never crossed my mind that Dre Greenlaw was going to get ejected for that hit.
Well, I didn't know you get ejected on the first offense. Usually when that happens, they go, he got his first personal foul conduct, what unsportsmanlike conduct. Next one, he's gone.
Right, which means you can yell, you can drop an F-bomb, the ref flags you. I mean, you don't get
exactly.
Flagged for an F-bomb,
but part of that is, and I thought Tirico did a good job. Now that I know, it makes sense. He reads the book for fun. He got shoved into him, right? I mean, when
Jimmy
you're
Ward
running,
Herbert.
Jimmy Ward shoves Herbert. Like, if that was a college play, is Greenlaw tossed 100%?
It's a good question. My first reaction would have been yes, but I'm not so sure that he I mean, that's a good question. The shove changes things there a little bit, but
I thought
my inclination would be in a college game, he probably would get tossed, but I'm not sure.
I get highly offended when
there was not a launch. It was crowned, but there was not a launch, which is one of the indicators in college.
But he left his feet. I thought he
but leaving your feet and launching, they do judge those things a little differently.
Gotcha.
But
I'm anti throwing people out of the game. You work too hard. No one's trying to hurt anybody, especially when you're not a defenseless runner. Even though I always push back on that, I don't understand how you can play football and be defenseless. Like, everyone knows they're defensive players, like when you're going over the middle. But obviously, he's not considered defenseless in that play. I thought them getting on the phone with New York, talking with Troy Vincent, former player, and then the dog and pony show of keeping Herbert out when he clearly was fine, but they want to show everything with the Tua thing, was one of the biggest CYA NFL trying to pump their chest. And then, of course, when they come back after halftime, you're thinking well, did they not give him his helmet back? And Rand say like, no, he's good to go. So it's like that whole thing to me was very fake. That really bothered me.
I didn't understand why he was out for more than a play after he'd clearly been evaluated.
Well, I felt like it's like the NFL trying to like, I'll show you Twitter.
To me, the part that really stood out, while you're still around, the part that really stood out to me was what you said. When I heard Terry McAulay say, I talked to the league, Troy Vincent determined it was an illegal hit. My jaw hit the floor. Like, wait a second. Troy Vincent determined it was illegal? Like the guy who's just like in the office Monday through Friday in charge of the rules? I know he's in the replay room too. Not your replay official, not your Dean Blandino.
So your argument is even though he's a former player or whatever, he's just a suit now. He's not like, he doesn't do this for like, he's not an official.
I mean, it is his job, but to me, like it should be the head referee today is John MIDDLEKAUFF. The replay official is Guy Haberman. And the two of you together should have to agree if you're going to eject a player, right? My on-field ref and my replay ref. But the idea that like,
well, he's eating Chinese chicken salad. He's like, James, toss his ass. He's gone.
Back. On Sunday night, I guess he's only focused on that game. But in like the morning window, there's 10 games. It's like Troy Vincent, like, hey, fellas, run that play over on TV4 back for me. I think I might want to eject the guy. And part of it is nobody ever gets ejected in the NFL for that hit. Ever. Have you? I honestly been racking my brain. I cannot remember seeing somebody get tossed for that type of hit.
I didn't think it was an ejectable play. I get very.
I even think. Can I just add this too? I know we don't. When you do these like breakdowns of these plays, you don't talk about intent. But I thought that was one of those. You're like he was not, because Herbert got pushed from the back. That's not what Drake. Now, I mean, Trey does have a rep. I mean, we will admit that, right? Like he's committed personal foul penalties before. But sorry, you were about to say. I get very.
And it's part of it. It's not going away. I do not need to hear these former referees on television. Whatever they're making.
It's your fault.
What do you mean?
No, it's your fault.
Why?
Your fault, because the league and the networks have all responded to everybody constantly killing the refs on TV that they felt an obligation to bring the refs on to explain the rules to people. So I blame you. You should blame yourself for this.
But he's never right. He's wrong a lot. Whenever they like go, what do you think's going to happen? They're always wrong.
Because they're judgment calls.
They always sound so fucking old and archaic, especially Terry.
They're judgment calls.
I can't. Terry just drives me nuts. Terry's the worst. Terry's.
I could remember Mike. Remember what was the guy they had for a year?
He missed. That guy missed all the time too.
What was that guy's name?
The dude that was with Booger. I mean, they were the worst combination in the history of sports.
Carey, Mike Carey.
It's just consistently these guys that sound like they're 78. Whenever they go under the hood, do they even go under the hood anymore? Whenever they do,
they bring the camera. Bring it out.
When they bring the camera thing out,
I forgot about the hood.
I miss the hood. They're like, what do you think here, Mike or Terry? They're always on the wrong side of it. I just don't want to hear their voice. And then always it's just a beepy fastball for Tony Romo or Collinsworth. Like, I don't see it that way, Terry, because they're always just seeing it like us sitting on the couch. Like, this is so stupid. And Chris was like, this is crazy. And to me, now they didn't call it, but when Terry came and said that Ray or whoever downed the fucking ball at the 1 yard line, who clearly looks, maybe his foot was it's down in the history of football every single time, whether from Pee-wees to junior high football, the NFL football, the college football, that's always down at the 1 yard line. And he's like, well, letter of the law, that should have been. And then they went, and even Tirico, you could tell, was kind of freaked. And Chris like, Mike, he already ran a play. And Mike's like, yeah, you're right. Because everyone was on edge. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
This is insane. What are you talking about? I hate Terry McAulay. I really do. Not personally.
He just represents something.
Well, I don't like his voice on the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. I don't like him chiming in. I want him gone.
My thing is just it's hard when you've got the 10 games going on at once and these guys are, like, oh, let's bring in Blandino or whatever. And he's trying to watch because he needs a minute. What happens in those scenarios is he needs a minute to see the play to form an opinion. But on the standalone games, when they have their own ref expert,
isn't Terry in the booth with those guys?
I think he is, because sometimes Pereira's in the booth. Those guys have an incredible gig, by the way.
They talk like 3 times a game.
There was a game with Pereira not long ago where they're like, let's just show Mike because he hasn't been on today.
What would you guess for 16 weeks of the number one show in America? Does Terry McCauley clear $1 million?
I wish I knew. I don't know because I have no point of reference for what he makes for that.
What if you found out he made $1 million?
It wouldn't shock me.
Well, I'd expect it.
I don't know that I'd expect it, but it wouldn't shock me.
He ain't making 75 G's, guy.
No, he's not making 75K. He's not making 75K.
I would guess it's closer to $1 million than it is $4.
I think there are times when you need it, and then there are times where like the play at the goal line where now again, I do think there's a lot of just the last thing you want is for it to be a thing after the game and you had the guy there and you didn't explain it. But yeah, I think it's here just because there's so many controversial plays all the time. You just need someone to explain rules. But like to your point, so many of them are not rules explanations. It's judgment. It's opinions on judgment calls. So they might be one guy's judgment might be this, one guy's judgment might be that. I remember going to several years ago at Stanford. There was a referee. The Pac-12 referees had a meeting at Stanford, and they said you can go if you want. So I went. And one of the things they did was they put a play. It was like a big stadium room, like a college kind of
where the team meets.
Yeah, and they had like on the overhead they would show a play, and then everyone had an app connected, and they could vote what they think the ruling is. And of course, there's never 100% agreement. That's targeting, that's not targeting, that's a catch, that's not a catch. So, I mean, you just never.
I think we're overcomplicating this.
Well, yeah.
I think we've jumped the shark, and now we got Troy Vincent eating a burrito, chiming in, screaming at his ref that's worked all day long. It's like, Troy, man, former defensive player.
Ejection.
You're a former defensive player, and you ejected him.
Players a lot.
Jesus, Troy, calm down, buddy. We get it. You made it to the top. You trying to fucking be the next Raj? They're not going to make you the commissioner, Troy. Stop. I can't believe Troy Vincent threw Dre Greenlaw out. Can you imagine what some of his former Eagle teammates would have said? Like, Troy, what
young
are you
Troy
doing?
would have said.
Embarrassment.
Anything else on the Niners? There's this, John, good news. I mean, we can get to more Niner stuff, but I do want to mention this. Huh?
No injuries?
I thought there was one.
I don't know. I don't think they definitely didn't have an offensive injury. I think wasn't Ebicam.
Oh,
it was Amenahu. But he walked off.
Yeah.
Be a problem. I mean, you can only lose so many defensive linemen. They've lost a lot already.
Good news for the Raiders, John. Josh McDaniels is off to a better 9-game start than John Gruden, who started 1-8. Josh is 2-7. They are moving in the right direction. They did the unspeakable today, the unthinkable, the unpredictable, but the not that shocking. They lost to the Colts. Now it's just a little less crazy because Matt Ryan came back.
I think it's a lot of less crazy.
Yeah, I was watching the game thinking these are just two NFL teams, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of less crazy. I think you would have had to fire him if he would have lost to the kid. And I think it's pretty clear, and I think Jeff deserves some credit for either coming in and saying Matt's starting or maybe just asking Parks Frazier and Reggie Wayne, the guys on the staff, they're like, you got to get this fucking guy out of here.
Right.
Get Matt Ryan back in the game.
But he's the one that has the kind of the pull to tell Jim Irsay, we're not going with your guy anymore.
Well, and to me, that's why I do not blame Jim Irsay. We've talked about this for I can't listen to anything coming out of Frank's mouth. Not that I have anything against him personally, but I don't take his football opinions seriously anymore. And Jeff came in and probably looked at him and said, we're starting Matt Ryan. He says, you do whatever you want, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty good little curveball. All of a sudden, Matt Ryan, I was watching Red Zone, and it was the end of the Bills Vikings game, was just about to go to overtime, or maybe it was still they were driving, and Siciliano chimed on and said, rumors, or not rumors, but we saw the video of Matt Ryan has taken all the reps in pregame warmups, and I knew right away. I'm like, okay, Matt Ryan's playing this game. And then I thought, oh, this thing could get interesting. because the Raiders aren't losing to that guy. Sam Ehlinger stinks. Matt Ryan is a diminishing player, but he's fucking an MVP. I mean, he can still play. You watched him today, like he looked well rested and he looked fine.
Yeah,
but you lost to Jeff Saturday, and after the game, I forwarded you an Instagram. Edgerrin James was there and got him like on his Instagram. And you could tell Jeff was a little uncomfortable because Edgerrin was kind of trying to talk shit for him. Like they all said you didn't deserve this shit. And
you think Edge would have made the trip if the game was in Houston?
Probably not.
Game was in Vegas. Edge.
Honestly, he might have just come. Is it crazy to think that a bunch of former Colts came with Jim?
No, it's not. It's very possible. Jeff Saturday, John, beat Josh McDaniels today. Jeff Saturday, whose last big personnel move was giving up fantasy control of his fantasy team. He had to give up his fantasy team. You can't actively be in a fantasy team.
You know who took it over?
Eric Decker. Eric Decker took it over. So,
guy, he was in a fantasy league.
No one's talking about that.
He was in a fantasy league with all these other guys that used to play in the NFL. He had to give up his fantasy team.
Yeah.
Because he got the opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL.
Guys, I got to go.
A week ago, he was the coach, leader, GM of a fantasy team. Very
probably
serious.
Devontae on his team.
Is it crazy to think the buy-in was $20,000 with the group he's
probably
playing?
Humongous, yeah.
Who knows? He had to give it up because he was literally coaching a NFL game. And he gave it to just some other former famous player. Eric Decker's like, yeah, I'll take it over, bro. What's my buy-in? Maybe his team was good and it was an easy transition. That's pretty insane. Like, it's funny. We're being sarcastic, but like when you just say that out loud, of course that
his last team that he coached was a fantasy team. I thought today, and I meant it when I said this to you, and I mean it. If I were Jim Irsay, I would probably hate Josh McDaniels. And I know it's not good to hold hate in your heart, John, but you know, sometimes you can just take some joy in hating a few people. And I would, to me, beating Josh McDaniels, who had taken my job and then bailed on me to not even take another head coaching job, just to stay after I had to hire his defensive coordinator, who actually turned out to be pretty good. And then to beat him at his place
on me.
With, I mean, they are 3-7, I think, the Bears. But to beat him at his place with Jeff Saturday, that would be one of my finest hours as an owner. After everyone spent a week shitting on me and telling it, I think that would be one of the greatest days of my life if I were Jim Irsay today.
I would say that Jim Irsay, the second half of that game and when it ended, no one's more happy than Jim Irsay, not even Jeff Saturday, right? Like, is Jim Irsay the most happy guy today involved in the Colts?
Absolutely, because Jeff Saturday's been around the league long enough to know that he could still lose the rest of his games, right?
Yeah.
He's got to get to work tomorrow. For Jim, he's already feels like he won. Like, we were losing with the other guy, we won with this guy. This was a good move.
I don't know if I'm expecting to wake up. I mean, it's, Pacific Standard Time, about 10:08. If I wake up and either Nathaniel Hackett or Josh McDaniels has lost their job, I'm not going to be – it's not going to be one of those, wow, didn't see that coming. But I do think we crossed the line of Josh McDaniels where it's all on the table moving forward. I mean, you forwarded me the thing, and it was probably going viral on Twitter. I mean, Derek cried after the game. Cried because it kind of feels like he knows you're fucked, Derek.
It felt to me like he knew it was he won't be on this team next year. That's how it felt to me.
You forwarded me Josh Norris tweeted out the stats of his throws downfield.
Yeah.
He completed one pass downfield of over 10 yards in the air.
10 air yards, I think it was.
Now, I get Waller's on IR, Renfro's on IR, but to just suck this bad with a quarterback that just had a pretty good year it's weird. He didn't get a true Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray contract, but he is making $40 million a year. And to be 2-7, when your team does have some talent, I first blame Josh. He's the head coach. The team they just feel off. They've blown leads. But it feels like Derek's having a pretty underwhelming season, given the pressure. Devontae had some comments last week of like, even from double coverage, throw me the fucking ball. I mean, he didn't say it like he doesn't speak like cocky. You know, he's pretty smooth at it. I wonder if they've fallen off a little bit. Wouldn't it be human nature of like they were BFFs? And you finally get to each other, and it does feel like their careers. I mean, Devontae got paid, but it's a disastrous decision for Davante Adams, who was one of the most famous players in the league on one of the most powerful brands in the league, and he leaves. And he's in obscurity and irrelevancy beside like people making fun of him.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason it's so disastrous is not just that this isn't working this year. It's that the organization has not shown the ability to figure it out. So firing the coach is the easy part if that's what ends up happening, or getting rid of the quarterback is the easy part. What do you do next? Do you end up drafting second? You take CJ Stroud? Cool, maybe he's a star.
Do you think, though, I know they're second right now, if you had to put like some money on where they picked,
I'd say like 6 or 7.
Yeah. They're more likely to be like 5 to 8 than they are 2 or 3, I would say.
Yeah, but
they do keep losing. So
given that Derek postgame, like maybe things are extremely weird for them. Do they not respect? I know, was it Brandon Marshall that went on the thing about Josh McDaniels is not a leader this week?
I know some of these things now. You
know, was that on Instagram?
You're talking Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, right? Or the wide receiver?
I thought it was the receiver. Didn't really watch the clip, but I saw a lot of people tweeting about it. But I don't know, John. They're 2-7. It could only get weirder. I think Mark Davis's Raiders organization is a wild organization, right? It is not a button-down operation. You hear the stories of just the way things work internally. It's not. I don't think it's particularly impressive from everything you hear. So I just like Davante Adams. Yeah, I know. Somebody tweeted me today, like, why does John hate the Raiders? I would love to hear the story. You want to give the 10-second story, the 15-second version?
I don't hate the Raiders. I just think I enjoy trolling them.
But it just explained to people
Mark
who are
Davis
new
and Mark Bedane got me fired from the radio show for talking shit when they were a winless team. They were terrible.
John was hosting the Raiders postgame show on radio. Just everybody take a moment to think about that happened for a period of time.
Yeah, John hosted Raiders postgame. One time they were 0-10.
Yeah,
and I tweeted out the rest of their schedule, the remaining 6 games. I said 0-16 is on the table. The Chiefs, the Niners, and within 10 minutes, I get a call. I didn't pick it up, but Mark Bedane ripping me, the former president of the Raiders, for tweeting out that they might go 0-16. Guy, they were 0-10. So it wasn't like this wasn't in August. Like this team's really gonna. They were 0-10. 0-10. Now they ended up going 3-3.
Was that the week did they win that Thursday night?
They beat Thursday night the Chiefs, but it just their mindset is just so low level, and that obviously Mark Bedane ended up losing a lot of money for Mark Davis by giving a bunch of money that the city of Oakland didn't even deserve, just randomly to him. That's not even here nor there, but you and I were uniquely equipped to up close and personal, and we just got to see the ins and outs. And we've always said, like, Mark Davis personally, like, just when you talk to him, he's very friendly and nice guy. But I also think they get very, very sensitive on their brand. And it's one thing to, like, your team has just historically sucked in my adult life. It can just always suck. So people aren't taking unnecessary shots when you stink. People aren't going out of the realm, like, out of their way to make fun of the Lions. They just make fun of the Lions because they stink. People like Yankee fans get mad at the Yankees because the standard's high, but they're not taking shots at it's just different. And I think the Raiders fall under the category of like the Lions and the Browns. They get so sensitive when everyone talks about their losing. It's like, guys, you always lose. Like you create the losing.
And remember when we tried to get credentials for the John Gruden press conference?
We were denied. No. Greg Papa was denied as well, though.
Greg Papa was also denied. I mean, that to me is like the Davante. He signed up for the whole thing. It wasn't just Derek. It wasn't just Josh McDaniels. It just nothing is ever easy for this organization ever.
He did leave Aaron Rodgers
right
after back-to-back MVPs.
Now, would Aaron want to come join him next year?
Brady?
NFL on CBS tweets that Jeff Saturday became the first coach since at least 1950 to tweet that a team looks horrible, then beat them within the next 2 weeks after never having coached at the college or pro level before. So
see, this type stuff, if I would have tweeted that when I was associated with the Raiders, they would have flown off the handle. It's like, no, guys, you just lost to a coach who tweeted last week, you look horrible, and had a fantasy football team. That's you. That's not me. I'm allowed to tweet that, you fucking losers. Like, stop losing. I've never seen a team. I picked them to make the playoffs. And they're 2-7. The Bears have more wins. The Jags have more wins. Well, of course they do. The Jags beat them. How do they always suck? They get a coach that I was like, I don't know why. I'm just like, oh, I bet Josh McDaniels is going to be good this time around. He's fucking terrible. They get Devontae Adams in the prime of his career, who probably beside Tyreek and like Justin Jefferson, there's no way he wouldn't go to every team and be like the best offensive player. Niners too. And they suck. I mean, they suck. Lost to the Colts. When I was watching that game day, it was a little surreal. You just kept, because they showed a lot of Saturday, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this
Wild
is kind of crazy.
On the sideline.
Yeah. And honestly, I thought he was pretty they kind of did a montage toward the end of like him doing some things, some high fives, like talking to Matty Ice. Honestly, I thought he handled himself pretty well.
Yeah, I watched his post-game locker room thing. Like, what can he really do other than to say, like, yeah, I mean, I got the job. And nice meeting everybody. Shout out to all you guys for working hard.
They give him the game ball?
They had to have. But I saw Jim Irsay he made some. I couldn't watch the whole thing because Irsay started talking, and I didn't know who he was giving the game ball to somebody else. But if I wake up Monday, if you're listening to this after the fact and Josh McDaniels has been fired, I will tell you, I will be a little, I won't be surprised if this makes sense, but it will be a shocking thing.
Well, I don't think he wants to look for another coach. Right?
Yeah, to me, he would have to know that like Charles Woodson would take the job. I mean, Jim Harbaugh would take the job. I really do believe.
What if he did that and tried that and Charles was just the coach?
John, I bet it crossed his mind last year. Like, why could I just maybe Howie Long would just do it?
Well, Howie Long would not do it.
I'm not saying that he would. I'm just saying that Mark Davis, his ideal world would be Eric Allen would just come coach the Raiders. It'd just be somebody he knows. Because think about that organization. If they can avoid going outside, they don't go outside, right?
Yeah.
He just would want somebody to.
Well, remember last year?
He's not a hands-off owner when it comes to his coaches.
Well, no. I saw he went in the locker room today. Someone forwarded me a tweet that
I'm sure he yelled at Josh.
This is one thing that I would push back on, and I don't understand quite why he didn't go to this well. Remember last year, one of the stories is like, Jim Harbaugh wants to talk to him, and they like really weren't that interested. Like Mark wasn't that interested in Jim Harbaugh. That feels like a mistake because it'd be humanly impossible for Jim Harbaugh. They wouldn't be 2-7. Now I don't know if they'd be 7-2, but they would not suck. Big Jim personality. He gets
the ring.
Yeah, it's a little easier to boss Josh around when he's trying to prove himself. Like Jim ain't coming in there and like taking orders from Mark. Like Jim's not talking to Mark post game after a tough loss, right? Jim's not talking to anybody.
Well, he's not talking, John. But I don't think Mark. I think Mark like, why do we suck? Why do you suck? Why does our offense suck? Like
I think he's yelling.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like it's like I don't think he's in there like just asking for reasonable explanations. I think he's in there airing his grievances based on his 2 cents on the play they ran on 3rd down and 1. You know what I mean? Stuff that owners generally don't talk to their coaches about immediately after games.
Yeah, I think he's one of the worst owners in sports. I mean, I don't really think it's arguable. This isn't personal. I don't give him any credit for Vegas. I mean, Jerry Jones and the league led that thing. The league would give anything. I mean, they're clearly booting Dan Snyder out. I think Mark they'll want to get a hold of this franchise. And it's a disastrous franchise. Like they've had some moments, like they've made the playoffs a couple times in the last 5 years. Those are the only 2 times they've made the playoffs, as Vic Tafer tweeted, in the last 2 decades. I mean, they have consistently sucked in the internet era. I mean, just sucked. It's really crazy. And then when we all kind of agreed, I think the Raiders are going to be pretty good. Like it was not it wasn't just Raider fans saying it. It wasn't just like football diehards saying it. It was like, I think the Raiders are going to have a good team. They are 2-7. Like, think about it. Like,
not just 2-7, like blown a 17-point lead
3 times.
3 times, only happened twice. What was the stat?
Well, it's happened 5 times in the history of the franchise. This year, it's happened 3 times.
Yeah. Blown out by the Saints, who
lost to Saturday.
Lost to Saturday. Rich Gannon tweeted, John, bad loss! Exclamation point.
Look at the first comment.
Are you interested in coaching? Was the first reply.
Well, would it shock you if he just I do want, if he did fire Josh, you've convinced me, he would probably interview someone like that he knows. Because what did he do with Gruden? And he was comfortable with
It's
Gruden.
a weird dynamic with Mark because he wants it to be somebody he knows, but he also really wants it to be a big name. From what I've heard, like that's really important. He wants.
Well, Josh was a pretty big name for him.
But it's
right?
why Rich Bisaccia. It's one of the reasons Rich didn't have a chance because Mark really wanted a big name. You're right, Josh. That's part of what would make it shocking to me. I think if Monday morning I woke up, is like Josh McDaniels waited all this time for his next shot, and it lasted 9 weeks.
Well, do you expect to wake up and Nate Hackett to have a job?
You know, it's funny. I hadn't thought about that one.
They scored 10 points today. They lost to the Titans, who had a million injuries.
No reason really to keep him around, I guess. Right?
I mean, they're not going to the playoffs.
I don't really know what you gain by. I don't think he makes it through the season. Maybe that's the short answer. Then you can just start your search, I guess. I don't know. It's college. It's not college. It's the NFL.
Does it feel like hard? I mean, it's going to be hard for Harbaugh to not have a job next year if he wants one in the NFL, right?
Well, the Colts, the Raiders,
Denver. Look, if I just paid all this money for the Denver Broncos, if I just paid all this money for Denver Broncos, it goes, who are you interviewing? They'd be like, well, this coordinator, and I got Gutsy over here, and I got, Sirianni's guy over here, and one of Kyle's minions, and you're like, how about that fucking guy, Jim Harbaugh? Someone just forwarded me. He went 49-23 when he coached the Niners. I'm watching this Michigan team the last couple of years, kicking the shit out of everybody. How about we interview that guy? Well, I got Gutsy from Kevin O'Connell's guy over here. He's an analytical forward thinker. He's 27 years old.
Gutsy a nickname in this?
No, that's
Goody and Gutsy.
That was the Bears hired the dude from the Packers. They all feel like the same.
Parks and Rec. Yeah,
Parks Frazier. I got this guy. He played quarterback at Samford. He's been coming up the Shanahan way, and then he worked for Gruden. It's like, how about just hire this guy?
Yeah, because it doesn't feel like Sean Payton would want to coach Russ, but I don't think Jim would Jim does not care. Jim will coach anybody, I think, at quarterback.
Totally agree.
And it might actually not be the worst thing for Russ.
I think Jim's coaching the NFL next year. I think it would be badass if he won the Natty, defeated Georgia, walked off out.
He left Sanford after winning the Orange Bowl. Remember that? Remember when Reese Davis asked him, or Fowler, one of the two, asked him, and he was very offended? Jim.
You see that people think the Final Four could be Georgia, Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio State?
I did not see that. I guess you think one of them. So you'd have two teams that don't play in their conference championship game.
Well, Tennessee's probably going. Like Tennessee would get in over a one-loss USC.
Over a one-loss USC if USC wins the league. Yeah. I don't know about that.
I saw a projection that Tennessee has a better projection than USC if they were.
Yeah, it would be
Tennessee's better than USC.
Tennessee's better than USC. They definitely are better than USC. I don't think USC is going to make it unbeaten, but I also think if you win your league Power 5, it's never really been close. Tennessee's not even going to its conference championship game. But I also think there might be room for them anyway. Like I could see Tennessee going over. Well, I guess TCU. It gets complicated if TCU's unbeaten. And the Big Ten would have a one-loss team. Whoever wins the Ohio State Michigan game
depends how the loser looked in that game.
Yeah. I think to me, the committee might love to put USC in though, but they'd love to put Tennessee in too.
What about Ohio State and Michigan? Whoever was one loss there.
Yeah, I think it'd be easier to. I mean, in a crazy way, easier to leave them out. Tennessee was like the number one team in the nation at one point this year, But anyway, that scenario would be if you ask me who would I like to see win the national championship this year, I would pick your scenario. Harbaugh.
Me too. TCU ain't going. I mean, I know they won at Texas. That was the ugliest game I've ever seen in my life. Not that I watched that much of it. I was more watching Michael Penix Jr. I text someone, a guy that runs a college department. I said, tell me there's that big of a difference between Penix and Tua. I'm dead serious. Is Penix better than Tua? And he's like, what? Shut up. Like, and yeah, I watched some of Tua today. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm a little too hard on Tua. But Penix was a beautiful deal.
Penix is awesome. Now, his receivers are really good.
Penix's
receivers are
so
really
are Tua's.
No, I'm just saying, like, Penix is they have a really dynamic. They've looked really bad at times this year, but they look good against Oregon. That was just a good game. High level.
That was the game of the day.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Alabama, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Good too.
Oh, Alabama, Ole Miss was good. It got better, like, as it went on.
Yeah.
At first,
because Alabama was
that first half was kind of sleepy, I thought, but
yeah.
Then Alabama got it going. There was a point in that game. I don't know if you saw Bryce Young was in the huddle, just like screaming at guys because their offensive line had just fumbled a snap or something, and he's lighting them up. And Saban like makes his way over. It's like, no, hey, step aside, and then he really starts lighting everybody up. Like
they were down 10. They were down 10-0.
You guys aren't getting off easy with you giving the little speech here. I'm here to rip everybody's ass.
He went nuts. He went nuts.
The Bills-Vikings game was crazy today, John. Better catch, Odell Beckham or Justin Jefferson? One-hander. I go Odell.
Jefferson had, like, the other guy pinned it against him too, so it was like the perfect. It wasn't just Diggs had a pretty cool one-hander catch, but it was just him. But there was no like help from anyone else, so he had to palm it. One-handed catches are hard, so they're all pretty sweet. Odell medically cleared.
How about the when Kirk really wants to put his whole body into it? When Kirk goes deep, like, it must have been, was it windy there? In the dome, Kirk can just drop back.
It was windy.
Kirk in the dome can drop back and just throw it. In Buffalo, Kirk drops back and like a shot putter. He's got to put the whole thing into it.
I had some I would have got old takes exposed. Like, you can never win with a guy like Kirk Cousins outside in the elements. I'll bet against them every time. They're down 10. Buffalo's driving. I was like, they're gonna fucking blow him out. And then he throws the pick. Guy, Josh Allen had 3 baby zone intercept. He had 2 baby zone interceptions, and he had the fumble, which was in his own baby zone, but it led to a touchdown. So that's
you're talking about the goal line.
That's the worst possible baby zone play you could have, right? In your own goal line, fumble it, and the other team falls on it. Like, does it get any worse?
That sequence of the Vikings, how did that go?
Well, Cook drops it. They score a flag.
Yeah. Was that before or after they thought they scored the touchdown on the goal line? And then he was down at the 1.
Yeah, I think Cook on like 3rd down, he throws it to the flat, he bobbles it, and there's like a penalty.
Yeah.
And then he gets tackled by like 7 guys. And then they do the sneak, don't they? And he gets stuffed.
Well, there was the throw over the middle to Jefferson, who they celebrate. They're screaming at everybody.
His knee's down.
But then they review, and his knee was down.
Which was the right call.
But he is in the back of the end zone talking shit there. Buffalo is just places going nuts. They're all talking shit. Like, you guys are done. We beat you. Then they call the touchdown back. So the Vikings offense has to come back on the field. They don't score. And the place is going bananas. The Bills are like standing on, all these guys are standing on the one guy jumped up on top of like the comms little trailer truck where, they store stuff in. It's like higher than the benches. He's waving around like they just done 2 big goal line stands. So place is going nuts. But then just anytime you got to snap the ball in your end zone, it's kind of crazy. And then it was just, the swings of emotion at the end of that game were pretty amazing.
It was a rough Josh Allen moment to have 2 picks and a fumble. Like, that's pretty, and I thought Sean McDermott, I thought both of them, like, that's the difference between those two and Andy and Pat is Andy and Pat are loose. Those guys get tight. Sean gets very tight on the sideline. You see him screaming. It's like, Sean, you need to relax. Your whole team's getting tight. Like, you need to chill a little bit.
It's hard to change, if that's who you are.
Well, he's very tightly wound. You know who I noticed is pretty fucking calm? I only watched this game on the red zone. He definitely is. Well, I mean, he's been a best looking guy in the room since he was like 5.
Very chill.
Daboll is a pretty even keel. Again,
you didn't see him lighting up his whole line?
He did today.
Oh, he got after it and then came back and got after him again.
But I'm just saying, like, there's a difference to me of like gathering the troops and like when stuff's going on, like when guys come off, you're allowed to light up. But when stuff's going on, Sean McDermott's screaming at the referees like, Sean, you need to calm down and figure out what's going on here. He was going nuts, screaming at referees like, your team is falling apart, bro. O'Connell's over there probably getting girls' numbers in the stands, just like, win or lose, bro. I already got 7 wins. I'm 6'5", good looking. Played with Brady.
Lions 31-30 over the Bears, John, and what was an incredible game. Lions found a way. They scored 21 in the fourth. They improved to 3-6. Bears fall to 3-7.
The Bears are an entertaining 3-7 team.
Very well. Did you see the Fields should have been sacked twice? Basically, Hutchinson goes flying by, reverses field, runs in the touchdown.
It was sweet. Hutchinson made a couple plays in that game. He's sweet too.
He did.
Someone was like
6'5".
He said 6'7".
6'7". I was like, is he really that tall?
No, he's sweet. I enjoy watching Lions and Bears. Like the Texans, there are certain teams like the Jags don't do anything for me. Lions and Bears, I'm like, this is pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I know. Give me that game on Thanksgiving. Just have them play each other on Thanksgiving every year. I think we'd have something.
Agreed.
Instead of having them play other teams that are usually much better than them,
Feels like, a lifetime ago that the Raiders beat the Cowboys last year on Thanksgiving, doesn't it? Prescaccio,
Mark Davis
winning Thanksgiving games against the Cowboys, guy.
Mark Davis might have yelled at his coach after that game, per sources.
At Rich beating the Cowboys?
Might have.
After a win?
Might not have. Might have. I don't know.
Do you think Mark Davis leads the league in yelling at his coach?
I think he does. I think he sneaky does. Who else yells at their coach?
I mean, consistently? Did you see? I look up today, and they're kicking their ass. The Rams are in shambles. They go to Bidwell's box. It's Michael Bidwell. I'm like, is that Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton? And they're just sitting there with Michael Bidwell.
And Keim, obviously, right? Keim had to be there.
I think he had already worked his way probably down the locker room.
So
they were shooting the shit. They had already spent their fist bumping and spent their time together. HBO Hard Knocks, they fist bump, guy, during the game. They fist bump, like after sweet plays. I don't think that's going on with most owners. I mean, some of these owners, I think the inherited owners, like the ones that were born into money, are so far out there. Obviously, if you're super rich, like the Waltons or whatever, I guess, did he technically inherit it too? David Tepper, he wants to yell at people like it's all his. He made this. He fucking purchased it. He's crazy. Right. This crazy brought him this wealth, right? I was going to say Spanos does not count.
Like the Mets owner.
Yeah, any of these young, Mark Cuban, the young crazies, all these inherited guys, they are the weirdest, I think. I mean, the weirdest.
Green Bay, by the way, John, at 4-6. If Washington loses on Monday night to the Eagles, they'll be 4-6. Green Bay is not dead.
The Niners are 7th right now at 5-4.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
the guy they drafted in the second round, Watson, had 3 touchdowns today. That game was good. Yeah, and then he was third. He did one of these. It was pretty sweet. Well, I mean, they lost in overtime. Pretty devastating loss for McCarthy. He went for it on 4th down. McCarthy fucking slammed his head. Like, McCarthy wanted that.
Tie game, right?
So bad. Yeah, tie game. I guess kicker was kind of banged up. It was windy. McCarthy was so mad. Like, McCarthy's not a throw his headset guy. Like, that meant something to him to win that. He showed up today, I think 4.5 hours, they said, before kickoff, and just kind of walked around. Think about it. I mean, that place made Mike McCarthy.
I saw a video of him out there on the field, like in his jacket pregame.
Like the like pea coat jacket?
Yeah.
He came extra early, they said, just to, kind of soak it in.
Probably he knew he'd have to say hi to a lot of people, didn't want to rush it.
They did do a thing like he has a lot of former Packer coaches and former Packer players that then became coaches on the Cowboy staff. It's like 8 of them. It might even have been more. They basically went to the big board. They put McCarthy's face, and they listed all the coaches. I mean, it's Green Bay. They gave him a standing ovation. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
I mean, it's Cowboy Packers. Like, I bet when the schedule came out, don't you think that was one of the bigger games on Fox's schedule?
Oh, yeah. Well, Fox has been, I don't know if you've noticed, but they've been promoting that game even before last Sunday.
But this is what I was saying about the NFL. Like, the Packers are having a shitty season. But they went into overtime. Dak, Aaron Rodgers, it was awesome. right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Number was huge.
Do you think 30+ million people watch that thing?
I bet it was massive. But also, like at the end of the day, John, like they could still finish over 500 if they could figure it out here.
But here's what I will say about a football game. Like ultimately, Oregon, Washington, neither one of those teams are going to win the national championship. And they both might end up like 9-3. But I'm fucking watching that game like, this is an incredible game. You just get locked into a football game when it's good, pro or college. If the brands are big and the teams are good, now obviously those teams are better than like what the Packers have been. But it's just an easy watch when you're watching a great football game, right?
Star players helps too.
Michael Penix, Aaron Rodgers, same guy.
I got Niners at -2. Well, or is this 7.5? I got two different lines here. Well, it's -2. It looks like some places it's 7.5. Some places it's 5.5. Niners, Cardinals.
Probably depends if the little guy's playing, right?
Yeah.
Little guy's playing probably -3-ish, -3.5.
Depends, even if he's playing, like if his hamstring's not good, him running away from guys is part of the key to him being a problem.
Well, in the HBO Hard Knocks, the reason I didn't hit play because I thought they were going to start at the beginning of the season. They actually just start like the last game.
Yeah.
So they start the last game. Who they lose to? Oh, Seattle. And he tweaks his hammy in the first half, and he looks at the trainer. He's like, "Fuck." And the guy's like, "Your hamstring?" He's like, "My hamstring." But he kept playing. Later in the game, he busts out a run, and then he comes to the sideline. He's like, "I couldn't open up." And they show him like clearly, even when he's going like 80%, he's still pretty fast. But he was kind of tight. I mean, I don't think
you think it's like you think it's a legit hamstring.
I think he pulled his hamstring. Yeah. I mean, John Wofford played Colt McCoy today in Rams and Cardinals. That's pretty terrible.
I wanted to tell Hanson, like, you don't need to show us any of this one on Red Zone, man. If you could just call whoever you need to call, we don't need to see any of it.
No one needs to see that game.
Did you see Kadarius Toney's touchdown today?
Are you shocked that he goes there and he's good? Well, then he had an end around for a play. Like Juju got KO'd. Do you see that?
Yeah, I did. That was
destroyed.
A big hit. I guess I just saw Matt Barrows was the pool reporter talk to the referee. They said part of that play was that Herbert was down. Oh, did the whistle blow? What do you mean Herbert was down? Like Greenlaw hit a part of why it was on sports so bad is because Greenlaw hit a player that was down.
Give me a break.
That's a pretty crazy explanation. All right. World Cup in 7 days. So obviously nothing. All right. Anything else?
That's all she wrote.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us, or good morning. Have a great week.
Later.
Later, y'all.